Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself in this weird, wild, wacky world of ours, and welcome to another exciting installment of London by Night. This evening's scene will take place in the confines of Hyde Park, once again, just across the stream just across the lake from where the ashram of the Teftani had been set up before. Their brightly colored silk pavilion once again looms over into the night, as Belek Tevye has been invited in order to come and share tea and ideas with the local Teftani. He has received this letter pushed under the door of the domicile where he is currently staying, which I believe is the occult shop owned by the orphan girls. But there will have been a letter sent requesting his presence for tea and conversation. So we will join Belek as he makes his way towards the silken domicile.
Belek will check to see if things look remotely as he remembered.
It is set up nearly exactly as you remembered.
Ah, lovely. He will make his way in and stop at the door before entering and just kind of shout, "Hello."
As you say that, you will see Shar emerge from behind a shelf that contains a number of scrolls as he says, You're very prompt, Mr. Belek.
I try. It was long
May I,
walk.
may I offer you tea, perhaps?
Of course.
Or something stronger?
Or that.
He will sit. He will kind of usher you to sit yourself down on the comfortable pillows, rather in the same style as they were last time you were here. Before he will pour from a silvery teapot, a very, very sweet, rich tea. I don't know if you've ever had Arabic style tea, but it's basically sugar molasses mixed with water.
Nice.
As he says, the tides and times are changing, Mr. Belek. The world is not as it was.
These are interesting portents. What bring them about?
We have seen the death of gods, or the manifestations thereof. I don't know if you know this, Mr. Belek, but it is very difficult to kill a god.
One can assume.
He'll smile as he pours tea for himself before lifting the tiny cup to his lips and taking a draught of it, placing it back down. I ponder, Mr. Belek, did I ever tell you why it is myself and my compatriots have come to London?
I do not believe that information has been given to me yet, no.
It is something that I wish your help with, as a matter of fact.
I will help insofar as I am capable.
Allow me to... I don't believe I need to explain this. When you wish to trap something, you must use bait, correct?
Yes.
A very long time ago, before I was born, there was a great mage named Shadan the Black, because of his chosen attire of my people. Shadan believed that if he himself could possess the power of divinity, he could remake the world, as men often do. Where I come from, there are many gods and many angels, many beings and many jinn. And so it was that Shadan offered one of the most beautiful of these goddesses, Scheherazade, the keeper of the 101 Arabian Nights, or the 1,001 Arabian Nights, anything that she desired if she would lay with him for an evening. And eventually she relented and she lay with him as God must lay with mortal. I was born from that union very shortly thereafter. But Shadan knew, as he is a tricky man, that when you possess a part of someone that intimately, you possess power. So, from what I'm led to understand, when I was still a child, he used my blood in a binding ritual and bound the goddess into into inanimate form. And he still possesses her to this day. He then left me alone to die in the desert. Fortunately, I was found by Bedouin tribes, and, well, I awakened on my 16th birthday. But Shidan is apparently here in London, and I would like to release my mother from his captivity.
How do you propose to make this happen?
In all reality, I do not even know where it is that he has ensconced himself, where his sanctum lies. First, I will need to ascertain where this is, as he is a powerful man who speaks to spirits on a regular basis and commands them to do his bidding. I said that you may also hear upon the grapevine of a powerful individual who could be easily traced back to his hidey hole. After that point, then, we may determine what might be the best course of action.
So we're going to need bait.
We'll contemplate before he says, I think that the bait is the fact that he believes here he is safe. He is what we would call a shematsen, a dark practitioner. The Tiftani turned their back on him long ago. I believe that he fears for his safety, and that is why he came here, far from our ancestral home. So, I believe he thinks he is safe, and when one believes they are safe, they make mistakes.
This is true. How may I be of service?
As I have said, you also speak to the spirits as I do. You have that connection with them. They may well be able to inform you should they hear of anything out of the ordinary. Should they hear of his existence, or should they know or notice anything different or out of the ordinary. And if they do, I would merely ask that you inform me, so it is that we may continue to plan the downfall of this evil man, the restoration of what has been lost. Because what you do not understand, Mr. Bellick, is when you capture the god of a concept, that concept starts to wither on the vine. So it is that people are forgetting our stories and forgetting our legend, which means that they are falling further and further away. And we require them more than anything else, more than life's blood, so that our people may yet have hope for a brighter future.
He will take a sip of his tea and ponder the thought for a moment. This is a problem. Of course, that much is known.
He will not.
I'm afraid you are more eloquent than I. I have no flowery words for this. But I will aid you.
He will say, I think more than anyone else in the city whom I have met, you understand what it is, the value of stories and the value of the hope that they give. For after all, you have an oral tradition like we do, yes?
Yes.
If my people lose their stories, and if they lose their legends, those things that gave them hope, then, well, we go to a dark place.
Truth need not be true in order to be true.
He will nod, and he will say, there is also, of course, the matter of the dying gods and the fear that that will put into people should they hear that it is happening. We need to identify why it is that this is the case.
We have examined the, I hesitate to say, corpse and discovered interesting notions.
Such as?
Well, I remember very distinctly that the plant in question was some sort of legendary, significant.
It
Hey,
was his
Paul.
bane.
Yes, this. And I distinctly remember an individual claiming to be Thor.
Yes, I called him myself, if you recall.
I do. He wishes to know what caused this problem. We do not know what caused this problem yet. However, when we remove plant from the body, bad things begin to occur, yes?
You can see he contemplates for a moment before he says, "More so than you, I think, realize. I stood before the blackness. It was the destruction of the other place. The mirror world was dying in its presence."
This is problem.
Yes.
So, something flashes across his face really quickly. Did we remember to tell Thor not to remove plant?
We did not.
Damn.
I think that he may understand the situation far better than we do in our current situation, so we shall lend our thoughts to hope that he will not remove the plant. Or if he does so, that he does so under circumstances where he can control the reaction.
That would be most beneficial.
You are not incorrect.
But as we have nothing else to go on, do we know how this happened in legend, in fable, in story? I am not familiar with this particular pantheon.
He will not. Ishar, I remember, got five or six successes on the roll to identify the legend, so he probably knows it. He will say, Balder was the most beloved of all the Norse deities. He was beautiful beyond words and kind beyond actions. However, he one night had a dream of his own death, and so it was that he feared that he would be unmade. So his mother Frigg, in order to make sure that her son would not fear death, made every being in creation promise that they would not harm him, and every being, plant, animal, phenomenon gave their word that they would not and could not harm Balder, Balder, which made it so that he could not be struck down by any that had made their promise and given their word. However, Loki, the trickster, used his magic in order to hide the sprig of was it holly or mistletoe?
Mistletoe.
Thank you. Used his power to hide a sprig of mistletoe. So, when Frigg had gotten the word of everything neath heaven, Balder was understandably cocky, and he said that you could do anything to him and it would not affect him. So it was that I believe Heimdall started to throw objects at him and they would all bounce off him, impervious, etc. However, then Loki gave Heimdall a sprig of mistletoe, who had never given its promise because it had been hidden, and it struck Balder in the eye and killed him outright. It was then, interestingly enough, that every being, when asked, Hel, the goddess of the underworld, said that she would return Balder to life if every being in the world, once again, gave a single tear for Balder, and every being did give a single tear for Balder, with one exception, Loki. And so it was, Balder must remain in the underworld.
So, Loki is responsible for problem.
According to mythology, I believe he is also connected to the death of Odin, but I can't exactly remember the exact portents of that.
Do we know if Loki had the responsibility for corpse at morgue. I'm not going to ask him.
No, I would very much rather not ask him myself. I think that we should investigate where it was the corpse was found in order to ascertain if there is any more residual spiritual presence, or anything else that would suggest that there is something more to that place than meets the eye. After all, if we went to the morgue, but not where the body itself was found.
That would have been my preference, to speak with the spirits at the ground level, so to speak.
Yes. I believe that that is possibly what our next step in this investigation should be. And maybe when we have a firmer groundwork on what is happening, then we can bring our findings and make sense of this together.
Very well.
However, I must give some advice in this. He will pour you some more tea, and he will pour himself some more tea, as he says, "Do you trust the Order of Hermes?"
I do not know Order of Hermes well. I am led to believe that they are responsible in part for creation of the cultural soup that is come to be known as Khavadi.
He will nod, and he will say, "Yesterday evening, when I met a few of our brothers and sisters of the Awakened in the British Museum, the man Carnifex very calmly asked if one of his fellows wished us to be murdered by him at that place, and intimated that they had a plan to destroy the entire city should they wish it. It is a bad omen."
I would say that is a bad omen, yes. Destroying entire city and asking to murder people is bad omen.
I do not trust the Order of Hermes in the city. They have given me no reason to trust them. As a matter of fact, that same Carnifex individual, when we were investigating the death of Odin, bound me in a summoning circle, or bound me in some kind of protection, and refused to let me go unless I gave him a boo.
I remember you speaking of this misadventure. I will keep eye on Carnifex.
He seems to speak with authority in their order, so I do not know how much authority that wields, but you understand.
I wonder who are other hermetics we know.
There is Hannah, who appears to be more... He contemplates. Where I come from, Bella, it is considered to be a great gift if you awaken. However, if you are deemed unworthy of the gift, you die. Your master will see to it that if you cannot survive the rigors of the tests, you will not continue to exist. Does this make sense?
It does. It seems almost as harsh as some other awakenings.
He'll nod, and he will say, "We believe that if you must shape Asha, which is the flame of the universe that was given to us by Ashahai, that you must be strong. You must have the soul that can wield this power. And it is only through hardship and through training that could otherwise break you that you will continue. Miss Hannah is... I would use the phrase, she is a delightful person, but she is weak. It is not necessarily a point of shame to lack strength, but it is a liability.
Are there other liabilities?
He contemplates. You have met Miss Eliza, have you?
Eliza.
A member of the Society of Ether from Hong Kong.
I believe that this is a familiar name to me.
He'll nod. She said in regards to Miss Lily, the individual whom I believe you currently stay with, that she was, to quote him, the weak link of the chain, and we should be careful that the chain does not snap. Those are her words, not mine.
Do you believe Eliza to be weak link, or merely this Hannah?
No. As I said, it was Miss Lily, Miss Eliza described as the weak link.
Miss Lily. Which Miss Lily? There are so many Miss Lilies.
The one whom you currently stay with.
Oh, with the guards.
Yes. And she is apparently also of interest to the Technocratic Union. They've already attempted to kidnap her once.
Technocracy I am not okay with.
No, nor am I.
Would you consider me weak link?
He will blink and he will look at you and he will say, "The spirits respect you." That to me says that you are not, that you understand. Strength is not necessarily physical force or the ability to do miraculous things. After all, a man who throws a fireball from his fingertips is not necessarily strong in his convictions or his character. He merely has the ability to burn something slightly further away than someone who has a lighter. So no, Mr. Belloc, I do not believe you are weak. I believe that you possess your own strengths. I believe that these two individuals may also come in time to possess strengths, but they have not suffered. They have not been given the training needed to become stronger, and they fear for themselves more so than they fear for the greater good of all those around.
Then let us temper these links, for to make them stronger. Eh?
There's a deep kind of agreement nod as he says, "I'm inclined to agree with you on this. As it stands, with you living with them at least for the time being, I have no doubt that at least the technocrats may think twice about attempting to interfere in matters of these individuals. Or if they do, they will come in larger numbers such that it will become obvious before they strike."
I will endeavor to protect them as best I can. The other sister is of interest to me as well.
He contemplates deeply, more of a sense of self than the other. I believe she is the stronger of the two, though I believe that she plays with forces she ill understands.
This is my concern, for I perceive this to be weakness itself. You see, I believe both have the opportunity to grow in strength.
He will nod, and he will say, "When one deals too much with death, however, they start to lose their connection to life."
This is true. We will see if we can coax a sense of balance in their lives. I intend fully to aid them in the growing of their business and also the growing of their persons.
There is a nod as he says, "We are quite we see, I think, this situation as much the same. As I have said, where I come from, the weak are cold because they are weak. However, these young ladies do not deserve such a fate. They were not born into the hardships that are the lives that some of us must lead. They were born in softer places with softer temperaments. However, unfortunately, we all must fight the same war."
There is tradition. To be initiated as shaman is very much like awakening, in that there is a complete, and his face kind of sinks a little bit. disassembly of self and a rebuilding. Perhaps their awakenings were not the crucible they required. Perhaps they reacted to them differently. Perhaps their lives made them something other than they could have been. But I believe very firmly that their time is coming and their strength will show. But we must make sure that they survive to that point.
There is a nod, at which point he will say, I believe that you are correct, and I hope it is that they can survive until such point as they are able to fend and fight for themselves. Mostly because we cannot be their guardians into the night. There are other places we must be and other battles we must fight. He contemplates before he says, perhaps it might be best if the young ladies were given some kind of rudimentary training in how to defend themselves, and from there we may work on other premises.
I was taught the basics of armed combat. No good with firearms or bows, but I've learned little in the way of swords and staves. Perhaps I could assist in this matter slightly.
He'll nod and he will say, you understand that I do not think of them as... They are not mine to defend. If they were my brothers or my sisters, then I would defend them. I am happy to give what help I can, provided it does not endanger those whom I must protect.
I understand. I appreciate your candidness, honesty, and sincerity in this regard. I would not expect you to extend your hand too far that you might fall. Eh?
He contemplates for a moment as he says to you, and he kind of quirks an eyebrow and he says, they have taken a place in your heart, I see.
I am tasked as a guardian, whether that be over spirits or over the children of the Magi, is immaterial.
Do you think that they might make efficient dream speakers?
I believe that they might make effective what to call mages. I do not know if they would be suited to the tasks that are required of those of the name. I believe, however, that they will find their place. And until they do, and while I stay with them to repay them for their kindness, I will do what I can to ensure that they are prepared when opportunity knocks.
Headshot, he says, nodding. You kind of assume headshot might mean good or excellent or something like that, as he says. In that case, Mr. Bellick, is there anything you would like to raise with me, or have we spoken on what needs to be spoken?
Your friend, is he all right after his outburst the other day?
He contemplates. Balthazar fought against people who are very, very evil and who oppressed our people. Unfortunately, he hears accents and assumes that they are those of the oppressor. He is an old man who has a lot of hatred for those whom he perceives as being the enemy. He is apologetic towards you and has stated as such. And I should hope that we will be able to move past that small fiasco, shall we say.
Please do extend to him an offer to teach him one thing of his choosing that I am knowledgeable of.
He will nod and he will say, and in exchange I will extend to you the same offer. Anything that you desire that I can teach you, you have but to ask.
I appreciate this. With that, I believe our business is concluded for the evening. I can think of nothing else or which to speak.
He will nod and will kind of brush himself down so that, his robes are not all crinkly. as he walks towards the tent flap, and he'll kind of lift it up for you.
I thank you once again for your hospitality. It is never lacking.
He will say, of all the things that we have discussed, Bella, I don't know why, but in my bones, I sense that it will become more pronounced in the future. The Order of Hermes may claim to be the backbone of the tradition. They may speak honeyed words and flowery tongues. Do not trust them on their word, trust them on their actions.
I will do this thing.
Okay. With that, Ishara will kind of, let him out and will drop the tent flap. So, with no further ado, thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, if you ever have any, for watching. This has been another scene in London by Night. Have a good evening, y'all.